Listeners, Season 3, Episode 2, we are talking all things Columbia County, unveiling some cool upcoming projects that are going to be happening in 2026. We're going to be talking about data centers. We're going to be talking about how the structure of Columbia County works, and there's no better guest to have on than Scott Johnson, the county manager himself. It's going to be a great episode. You do not want to miss this. Listen all the way through. Thanks for listening. And we are back, Season 3, Episode 2. And y'all, I'm very, very excited about this guest we have today. We're going to be talking all things Columbia County. And of course, I can't think of a better person who knows Columbia County than somebody who's been serving the area for well over a decade at this point. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Scott Johnson, county manager, just knows Columbia County, lives and breathes Columbia County, and has been doing some incredible things for this area since I can remember. Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for coming on. So
Absolutely.
busy schedule. And
Yes.
got you
Yeah,
here
I'm glad
in
we
the morning.
glad we were able to put it together.
Yes, sir. And you got your Diet Coke and your one Diet Coke a day.
That's right. That's my caffeine in the morning. Not a coffee drinker. I survived 20 years of law enforcement. Retired as a state trooper, never drinking a cup of coffee. So people don't know how I do that, but yeah, had my one caffeine for the day, and I'm ready to go.
And your goat.
Yeah.
So there's something about just don't like the taste. Why no coffee?
I don't know. I don't know why that is. I mean, all the guys, they go to coffee shops, and that's the big thing with cops, right? Coffee shops and donuts, and especially back in the 80s and 90s when I worked. But I don't know. Just never really got a taste for it, and yeah,
There we go.
so.
Well, we know you're a big Bulldog fan. Going to Texas, Georgia this weekend.
Yeah, I'll actually be at the game this weekend. Yeah.
So when this releases, that'll be in a few weeks behind. So hopefully by the time we're listening to this,
Okay. We will know the outcome.
We'll know the outcome.
Okay.
It'll be a big old Georgia W.
Yep.
And we'll get to Gunner and the Heisman talk here towards the end.
Okay.
But hey, so for those who may not know that much about you, who are you? Where do you come from? How did you get started here in Columbia County? Actually, you were a retired state trooper.
Yep.
Thank you for your service. But beyond that, what's the story?
Well, so I'm a local guy, right? I graduated from Harlem High School, so I'm product of Columbia County. I raised my family in Columbia County. My kids are there. My wife and I live in Columbia County now, currently. So even in my law enforcement career, I started out with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office in the late '80s and transitioned quickly to the State Patrol. Did a whole career there. I retired in 2008 and came back as Columbia County's first assistant county manager or county administrator at the time. We changed it to county manager later. So did that in 2008. And then 3 years later, Steve Sobleski, the county's first county administrator, retired, and I took over that role.
Okay.
But this is my home. The entire time that I worked with the State Patrol, I traveled all over the state for my entire career, but I never moved anywhere else. So I've lived here for a long, long time. Very invested in the community. A lot of times people think, you're. I hear sometimes in Columbia County people feel like you're from that side of Columbia County, or you don't care about this side of Columbia County, or whatever. And I grew up in Winfield, Georgia, on the other side of Appling. I live in Appling now, so my office is in Evans. I own property in Martinez, so I went to Harlem Baptist Church for a long time, lived in Harlem for a long time, raised my family in Harlem. So
Katie went to Harlem.
Katie went to Harlem. Yeah, my daughter Katie. Yeah, Katie went to Harlem. My son Caleb, who's a lineman of Georgia Power, he's a Harlem grad. And then my two stepkids are both Harlem grads as well. So big difference in their ages. But yeah.
We're all over the place.
Yeah. So, I mean, really you said all things Columbia County. I mean, that's true. I mean, I really care about the county I live in. And, I'm not that there's anything wrong with this, but I'm not a transplant. I'm not a guy that's, somebody brought in from the outside and had to get up to speed. I know a lot about what's going on and I have a lot of institutional knowledge about Columbia County.
And it's your home and you're
Sure.
going to
Yep. Absolutely. It has
protect,
been
defend,
for
and
a long time.
look out what's best for it.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely. Work hard for that.
Oh, we met through the Leadership Columbia County program.
Yep.
That's how we met. I remember you do this talk, and you talk about one of the things that really stood out was your organizational structure
Mhm.
that you brought to the county, and that's really paid its dividends. So let's talk about a little about what that is, and how you've really set this county up for success.
Yeah, so you mentioned that I do unity training to kick off Leadership Columbia County every year.
Hmm.
They're very gracious to allow me to do that for them, and I come in and it's all the business leaders and people like you that are important in our community. They're all coming together, and you come in there day one, you don't know anybody, and it's my job to get you up to speed. And I've kind of come up with a seminar, and you went through it obviously, that breaks down walls and barriers and gets everybody working together kind of day one. So it's kind of a cool little thing that we do. I think it's cool, but it's effective. And really, what it is really it's we need to appreciate diversity, appreciate what everybody brings to the table, but really unity is what makes things really exceptional.
Hmm.
And so I've kind of taken that same approach with county government.
Hmm.
One of the things I did when I first got here was I realized there were a lot of silos. We hear the word bureaucracy a lot in government, and people
Hmm.
hate bureaucracy. There's a place for that, but it's usually a negative connotation
Hmm.
when people talk about bureaucracy. So we wanted to do away with that bureaucracy. So we actually came up. You mentioned the org chart. We actually came up with a functional org chart that's very collaborative in nature. That actually has all the county employees working together functionally on paper,
Hmm.
and then we translate that into them working together in the field. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to do the best we can for Columbia County citizens
Hmm.
and provide them the highest level of service we can for the lowest cost available. That's our goal. And the best way to do that is collaboratively having departments work together and in the best interest of the citizens.
What are some of the big highlights? Like, what are your big, can give you a second to brag a little bit, some specific departments, some people that have just really stood out. What do you think have been the biggest and best results from this organizational chart
Yeah, well,
or
I'll tell
practice?
you. I don't really want to bring people into it because my entire staff is a staff
Hmm.
of rock stars. I
Yep.
mean, I would unintentionally leave somebody out. I will just tell you that we have been best with the best and the brightest in Columbia County,
Hmm.
especially people that lead our departments, our managers, and our division directors, and my deputy county managers, and um, really all the people. Again, I don't want to go down that list because I know I'm going to leave somebody else.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
super important, right? Um, our assistants, but I think that for Columbia County working together as a whole, and all of us working within that organization, with each other. Um, it's allowed us to do some things that I think Columbia County probably wouldn't have been able to do before. Let me give you an
Okay.
example. Um, we have an ISO rating of 1 in Columbia County, and
Hmm.
people really, you're a real estate guy, you know what that means, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So ISO is an independent insurance rating organization that rates your community effectiveness on things like fire departments,
Apartment. Exactly.
and we're a 1. Right, and 1 is the gold standard. When I took over as county manager, we were a 6, and then we went to a 4, and then we finally got to a 1.
Hmm.
And you say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, we're one of a couple of hundred in the country out of 47,000 departments that are a 1. That's
Yep.
pretty high standards. But that is the tip of the iceberg. We have a AAA bond rating. A AAA bond
Hmm.
rating in government means that we have perfect credit,
Hmm.
right? So again, you're trying to get somebody a mortgage. They walk in with a 8 something credit score. You're like, that's my guy, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's going to
Oh,
be.
we love them.
We love those people, right? We're going to help everybody, but we love those people that have worked hard and got their credit that way. So, Columbia County has a AAA bond rating, and not
Well,
only do we have it,
typically they're the engineers that are gaming the system. They
yeah, well,
they actually end up being
some
a pain
way,
in the
yeah.
butt,
There's a,
but
there's some way they did that, right? So no, that we have a AAA bond rating, and we didn't stop at getting that bond rating from one rating agency. We got it from all three.
three. Yep.
So it'd be equivalent to you in your personal life saying, "Hey, you know what? I want a perfect credit score from Equifax, TransUnion, and whatever the other one is that there's
Experian.
3 Experian,
Experian.
right,
Experian.
Experian, very good, yeah. So, think about having a perfect score with all of those. Well, Columbia County as a government has that.
Mhm.
So what does that mean? That means that we can borrow money at the lowest interest rates available. We can put
Mhm.
our money to use. And one of the things we did this year, talking about working collaboratively, or this past year, we saw something in the market that I've never seen in my government career. And that was the ability to be able to borrow money
Okay.
at a very low rate because of our perfect credit, right? And deposit it and get a higher return on that money to allow us the ability to really just extend the pot of money that we had. So think
Oh, well, yeah.
think about borrowing money at
Wait,
2.5 and investing it at 4.5.
so borrowing borrowing a money from a bank and then throw it into a money market account.
Correct. Right. So
Wow.
I gotta pay my debt service off,
Mhm,
right? But there's a gap now between what I borrowed it at and what I have. And
mhm.
we have a thing in government called arbitrage, and we have to face arbitrage sometimes. But there's ways around that depending on how you invest the money.
Okay.
It's called slug accounts. But I won't get into the details. But the fact of the matter is, we seize that opportunity and put that perfect credit to use to say, hey, we can borrow money here, we can invest it over here, we can pay for the projects that the voters voted on.
Mhm,
And now, if we have any cost overruns, we're going to have a little bit of extra money in the form of interest over here.
mhm.
We don't have to go back to the voters to ask for any more money. And that's just one example of of how we do things in Columbia County that really make us successful, and then give the appearance of everything just really looking good and working well
Mhm.
because of that. And um, I'll tell you this, Matt. People ask me all the time, man, what's the one thing that makes Columbia County so successful? You know what?
Mhm.
Can you narrow it down to one thing?
Yeah, it's a lot.
And I think we obviously our people are great, um, but I would say that we're very intentional about everything we do.
Okay.
We're very careful. We think things out. Sometimes the citizens don't think we do, but we are very, very intentional about what we do. And what we do over here is going to have an effect on what happens over here,
Is
right?
there a really good example you can provide for us? Just a recent thing that maybe.
Well, yeah. So a good example of that would be well, if we're going to extend water lines or sewer lines, right?
Mhm,
If we're intentional about how we do that, that's going to drive the growth in Columbia County.
mhm,
So I can assure you that if I extend a sewer line all the way out Washington Road to Pollard's Corner and
mhm,
provide water, then there's a pretty good chance that all that land is going to develop.
mhm.
And then we're going to have subdivisions on all that property out there. And people are going to be living out there with subdivision. What comes with that? Traffic,
Correct.
right? We have more people in schools. So are our schools adequate now? So do we have to build another school because of all the new houses? And it all started with where we decided to put a sewer line.
Mhm,
So you had to be intentional about that, right? Many years ago, we instituted a broadband network in Columbia County. We actually have a our own fiber network. People don't understand that that a government would have this. We have one of the largest, what I would call municipal, although we're not a municipality, um, government owned, broad local government owned broadband networks in the country.
mhm.
Um, and what that allows us to do is that allows us to have our own towers and our own radio system. And because we were intentional and we did that, we knew that that would be great. Now we had the hurricane that happened last year,
Mhm.
and we never lost communications. While you couldn't use your cell phone, or I couldn't use my cell phone, or we couldn't use landlines, or all the lines were down or whatever. The Columbia County broadband utility never went down. Never went
Communication
down.
was still able to flow.
Right. So, and that was a result of us being intentional back in really in 2011 and 2014. Um, Getting this broadband network, knowing that one day we'd be able to have this cool network that we ran that would be very reliable. We wouldn't have to rely on anybody else. And then it does other things like I talked about ISO for the fire department. We get additional points because we have such a reliable radio network,
Mhm,
right? So that one thing we did back then, that plan that we put into place back then, is now paying dividends going forward.
mhm.
And there's probably hundreds of examples of those.
How much of an impact did that system what did this area look like, or what would it have looked like without that system during the hurricane versus what it happened with the system?
Yeah. So, again, Columbia County and our partners in Augusta, Richmond County really got hit the hardest. I know everybody got hit hard. I don't want to take anything away from North Augusta or our neighbors to the south, but if you go back and you look at the damage and you look at the amount of money that was spent on debris cleanup or whatever, Columbia County was the highest, and Richmond County was very closely behind that.
Mhm,
So we took the brunt of the blow. But I'll never forget. I got up. That was a Thursday night. Hurricane hit on a Thursday night, going into Friday morning.
mhm,
I finally got my way to work. There's an interesting story about that, about me having to walk to work. I had a laptop in one hand and a chainsaw in the other hand. I kind of worked my way to a firefighter a couple of miles away from
I'm
my house.
y'all got a lot of trees in that neighborhood. I bet there's some bet few down in that road.
It wasn't just the neighborhood. It was, I live in more of the
You have a
rural area.
two-lane street headed
Yeah.
to
So
Washington Road, yeah.
everything was blocked. But when
Mhm,
I got to the emergency operations center that morning, um, we found out that 100% of our roads were blocked in Columbia County, and 99.7% of our residents were without power. I've still not been able to find out who the other 0.3% were that had power. I don't know that that might have not been accurate, but I mean, obviously, it was a devastating storm, right?
mhm,
And as local government, it's our responsibility to provide that first level response. So we started immediately on that Friday morning, and we
mhm,
started immediately by getting people in. We could get in by dispatching people. We had pre-staged some things, so we were kind of ready for that. But we started, going out and cutting roads out. So my goal was, I said, hey guys, I want every road to have one lane passable, so at least people can get out of their homes. We can assess damage. We can make sure that that nobody's injured in their
mhm,
homes. We got to get ambulances and fire trucks out there. So
mhm,
our law enforcement, our sheriff's office does a great job. So we we had to be intentional about that, about the manner in which we did that. So we started on that very first day, and that was on Friday morning with a tremendous amount of chaos and a tremendous amount of uncertainty in the community,
yeah,
right? And I am very proud to report that by Monday morning, all of our roads were passable in Columbia County.
mhm,
Now, I can't say that for every community.
mhm,
The fact that we were able to do that in house was nothing short of amazing. That Monday morning, I actually went to a meeting here in downtown Augusta. The governor was in town. He came in to survey the damage, and Augusta was getting geared up to start doing all the things they needed to do to start their cleanup efforts as well. And I met didn't meet him. I know this gentleman, but I ran into a friend of mine that's a commissioner in another county south
mhm,
of here, much smaller county, and really big guy, big burly guy, and with tears in his eyes, he said, "When are we going to get some help from GMA and FEMA?" And I
mhm,
said, "You're not. This is the job of local government." He said, "We don't have the ability to do this." And I really believe we may have people that may have been hurt or even killed in their homes, and we can't even get to them. And I need help, right?
mm,
So
mm,
that's just a contrast to how Columbia County was prepared for that storm versus a rural county that maybe not have the same sort of assets and
right,
resources that we have. And typically we would help them. Any other time I'd have sent all my people down there to kind of help him out.
yeah,
Um, but in this case, we had to take care of our own stuff first.
yeah, got to,
So by Monday we have all the roads open. By the middle of the next week, we had a lot of things going positive. Storm hit on Thursday night into Friday morning. I remember walking into the EOC on Sunday morning, telling all the division directors and everybody in the emergency operations center, Sean Granado, who did a fantastic job as our EMA director during this whole thing. I told them all, I
mhm,
said, today's the day we go proactive.
okay,
And we did.
mhm,
I want a proactive plan from all of you. And one of the things that we came up with proactively was, hey, we're trying to cut these things out, and we're trying to help Georgia Power and Jefferson Electric get to the power lines, but there's a lot of trees in lines right now, so we can't cut them. We don't know if
mhm,
it's hot. So we said, hey, what if we start embedding our cutting crews with one Georgia Power guy who can go out, and do they have the resources now to give us a person, or let us put our crews with their crew,
mhm,
and we can go out there and we can clean it up that much faster. And Matt, I mean, and you'll know this, our goal was to have everything done in March, all of the debris cleaned up,
yep. I
right?
remember the press releases and
Right. So yeah, that was the other thing. So that was another thing we did was very intentional. I took to Facebook on day 3,
you don't
starting
have
to get
social media.
reviews. I don't have any social
No, no,
media. No.
you said get me on Facebook.
Well, I told we it's part of that proactive plan, right? I said we have to respond to our citizens. They need to
Mhm,
know what's going on. There are a lot of people that are scared, they're uncertain.
yep,
You couldn't get gas, you couldn't get groceries. How long is this going to last? They're looking to their local government for answers.
mhm,
And I couldn't get on the radio because at the time the radio didn't even have a signal. They
right,
weren't broadcasting.
mhm,
Um, if I'd have gone to a TV station, they were shut down. They didn't have power. They were on backup generator or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, even if I recorded something, you didn't have cable at your house. How are you
right,
going to see it? Right.
right,
So what I realized was, and my PR folks, Cassidy Harris, another person, did an amazing job during the storm. She's our PR director.
mhm,
Um, Cassidy says, we'll start putting out social media blasts because we knew that everybody was going to go to their phone as soon as they could charge it.
Yep.
They were going to go to that phone. So we started putting out information like, hey, all of our parks in Columbia County have free Wi-Fi, and it's up.
It's up.
Why is it up? Because we have a broadband network that we own. So
Yep.
now we're starting to see the benefits of
That's
that, right?
there you go.
So now in an emergency, my residents can go to a park if they can get to a park and they can get on our Wi-Fi. They can actually use the generators there and kind of charge their devices and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
now they can communicate with the rest of the world because if your parents live in Ohio and you're here, or you live in Ohio and your parents lived in Columbia County, you can't get in touch with them because their phones are dead. There's no internet. There's no nothing.
That's a 24, 48 hours I would not want to go through.
Right.
Right.
And so, and as local government, we had to start kind of telling that story, right? So we started pointing people in the right direction, and we knew people would go to their phones first. So we said,
Mhm.
let's just put everything on our social media platforms. And then I found out later that my updates were actually being shared with the Pentagon because they didn't have any other way to. Well, they had ways, obviously, to get situation updates. They didn't need Scott Johnson in Columbia County, but um, they were actually using those updates. There were people at Fort Gordon that were forwarding
Blast 'em
those
up.
to the Pentagon, and that's how they were keeping up was what was happening here. So really, really a good story that all kind of comes back around to being intentional and kind of doing the right thing.
And I'll make this point very clear. The IS just to make the ISO rating
Yeah,
thing real quick. That means lower insurance rates for houses.
correct.
So ISO rating is no longer a one. It's more expensive to own a house in Columbia County.
It's a lot more
A
expensive,
lot more
right? So the
expensive.
higher it goes, the higher the ISO rating goes, the higher your insurance is going to be. I mean, it's
Mhm.
just basically the risk in the community, right?
Correct.
So we are constantly looking at ways to reduce the burden to our homeowners,
Hmm.
and we have done that through the ISO, making those investments to make sure your insurance is cheaper if
Hmm.
possible. And then we've done the same thing with taxes. I hear a lot of times people talking about taxes in Columbia County and how high they are.
Hmm.
Fact of the matter is, we just did a series we did a series on property taxes. You can see it on our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel that's up and running now.
Okay.
It's
We'll
really
make sure we
great.
link that in the podcast
Yeah, we want
description.
to plug that. I mean, it's really great. This YouTube channel is good. We've got two very talented people. Chris Lloyd is doing production. He used to work at Channel 12 doing
Yep.
production. So he is just an amazing graphics guy, and he does all the things like we have here in this studio and all the
Right.
filming and sound and all that stuff. Is just very talented. And then we hired Hallie Turner, who was also a local reporter, who
Okay.
is now our community engagement specialist. And Hallie's going out and doing for Columbia County what she did for the news station,
Mm.
doing interviews, putting stories together, and we're posting all this on our YouTube channel with uh, all of our meetings. So, a commission meeting, you can watch it
Get it
live
out
on
there.
YouTube. You can our planning commission watch it live on YouTube. So when I hear we're not very transparent, that's
There's a video.
hey,
There's a lot of
live
videos.
live video. You don't even have to come here, right? You can watch it, or you can watch it later from your own home. But just kind of talking about that, that what we're trying to do to kind of get that word out is
Mhm.
is super important. And I was going somewhere with that, but I forgot. So you have to
Well,
remind me.
well,
Get
we
me back on topic there.
well, we are talking about the ISO ratings and just
Oh
how we
yeah,
can
that's
get
right. Yeah,
into it.
thanks. So
Hmm.
I was talking about the property taxes. We're property taxes in Columbia County are not higher than our neighbors. Property taxes, if you look at the millage rate and compare them, our property taxes are some of the lowest in the entire state.
Hmm.
Our values are high.
Yep.
So as property values go up, your taxes go up. But the board of commissioners have even helped with that. There was a proposition on this last ballot that everybody
Hmm.
voted on in November. I'm sorry, not in November. Yeah, November, the one we just had, um, where we actually have additional homestead in Columbia County. So instead of getting a $2,000 homestead credit in Columbia County, if you voted, well, everybody voted yes, so it's over now. You're going to get a $10,000 homestead credit next year.
Wow.
And so that homestead credit, that comes off the top of your taxes, right? So we
Hmm.
assess the value of your home. We tax you at 40% of that. We subtract any exemptions you have, in this case, $10,000.
Hmm.
And now we apply the lowest millage rate, or one of the lowest millage rates in the state, to
Your
that taxable
taxes.
value to get our taxes.
Hmm.
So we're continuing to look at ways to reduce that burden on property taxes. And I'll tell you, Matt, the Columbia County Board of Commissioners want to be the first county in the country to have zero property taxes. And
Okay.
and there's a lot of discussion about that right now and how we're getting there.
How? What? Yeah. What's That's very interesting. So tell me a little more about that discussion.
Yeah, so I mean, everybody's seen it. You've seen it locally in the news. We're talking about data centers and what data
Hmm.
centers are, and
Yep.
you know, people. I think people are upset because if you, it's funny when I say if you Google data centers, you have to use a data center to find out why you don't want data centers,
Hmm.
which is kind of an interesting anomaly, right? Right.
Something's running the old all
Right,
the
right. All
computers,
this
all the
information
internet.
you're getting, so, but that we have some people that are opposed to it. Most people don't understand the modern data center or whatever. But kind of to make a really, really super long story short, Georgia, not Columbia County, but Georgia made some strides in the last few years.
Mhm,
Again, being intentional to try to attract data centers because they realize the financial impact of data centers.
mhm,
Um, so they did some sales tax credits and some sales tax abatements for data centers. Um, Georgia historically has had pretty low cost land if you look around the rest of the country and kind of compare us to other
mhm,
places. Our insurance rates are good. I mean, there were a lot of things about Georgia that were attractive to data centers
mhm,
when they started looking. And I'll just say this: people say, why data centers? Why do we even need that? We all have a phone. We all have a computer. We all have a tablet.
You
Right.
like your new AI toy,
Right.
your best buddy on
Right.
Chat
Well, yeah,
GPT?
it is not just AI, but AI too. But I mean, are you streaming Netflix? Or
Mhm,
so we're in a different age, right? As Americans, we're generating 400 million terabytes of data every day,
mhm,
and if we don't store that, I believe President Trump said this when he first got elected. He said, if we don't store our data in this country, it's going to be stored offshore. It's going to be in China and Russia, and
which is
where
scary.
you go and your route to work may not be a matter of national security, but do you really want the enemy to know where every American's going every day and what they're consuming and what they're buying? And you know, I,
Mhm,
I say the enemy. I mean, obviously it goes back to old Cold War days, but I mean, in reality, the president realized that there's a need to have this data stored here.
mhm,
So with that, we look at data centers, and we were approached by a data center that really started out wanting a very small piece of property Columbia County owned, quickly decided that they needed to make it bigger than that.
mhm.
Work with their end user to say we need to be bigger than that. And there's a lot of pieces in there where Georgia Power has to come in and say, can they provide the amount of power that this company needs, or that the end user needs? A lot of talk about rates are going to go up if we allow these people in. It's the opposite. It's supply and demand, right?
Let's talk about some of the big the things I've seen, the big
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
opposition.
Throw them out
So
there, and then I'll
yeah.
tell. I'll wrap it up with why
Hmm.
it could affect your property taxes. But yeah.
And so I think some of the big main concerns is I don't think it's very clear on, or there's a lot of misinformation on how they pay taxes,
Yep.
right? Because it's not supplying a lot of jobs, right? That's what
Correct.
it quotes is that they don't take a lot of jobs to run it. And then of course resource consumption. And
Right.
I've seen power, I've seen water too.
Yeah. Let's
You
talk
have
about those.
stories about,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know anything, so educate me.
Well, yeah. I'll give you my
I'm the uninformed citizen
I'm
here.
going to give you my elevator pitch on this, and it may or may not be exactly accurate, but it'll be pretty close because I've said it a lot. Spoke to a lot of civic groups and stuff like that. So Georgia Power is going to decide on the power. They're the only ones that can do it. Georgia Power is an industry leader when it comes to power production and distribution and
Mhm,
transmission. When I say industry leader, I mean in the entire country.
mhm,
We're very blessed to have Georgia Power here. Um, so power is kind of in and of itself. And then you talk about other natural resources and water being a big one, right? So the reality is that modern data centers use very little water.
okay.
Now, you can go Google it and see where they've just, drained lake basins and done this and done that. It's just the most terrible thing ever. But, you know, the reality is they use very little to no water.
Okay.
And the end user we're working with right now um, has kind of confirmed that they're going to try to go that route, right? To use very little water on this big project we're talking about in Columbia County.
What's do you know the difference between like what how technology has changed to make that happen?
Yeah. So what's happening is, I mean, so when they're generating all this power is running these servers constantly, so they're generating tremendous heat,
Mm-hmm.
and then the heat it has to be cooled somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either water cooled or air cooled.
Okay.
Historically, it was water cooled. which is where this water consumption came from.
Right.
But now they use more of a closed loop system, almost like the radiator in your car, right?
Yeah.
You're not constantly putting water in your radiator,
Okay.
but your radiator is constantly cooling your engine, right?
There's a basin, and they recycle through the water basin.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
and that's kind of what it is. Once you fill it one time, it's kind of full, and then you never have to worry about it again, unless there's some kind of breach or something like that. But yeah, I want to go back to the people that have just gone off the deep end about how Columbia County is going to drain the lake on this project, because I want to give you some real numbers here.
I love that.
This is interesting.
Bring
yeah,
it.
yeah. So we talked about potentially using, and we did a zoning classification, so we had to put some guesstimate, and it was a true guesstimate as how much water they may use. So they kind of went with the worst case scenario, and they said 6 million gallons a day, and everybody went, "Ooh, you just did it too, Matt. You just said
Sounds like a lot.
6 million gallons a day, right? Well, 6 million gallons a day is a lot until you put it into perspective.
Okay.
Let's
Bring
put
the
it
perspective.
Let's put it into perspective, right? Columbia County produces on every day, any day. We have the ability to produce currently under permits from the Corps and the state. We can produce and treat 54 million gallons of water a day in Columbia County. On our worst, hottest day that we've ever had in the history of our system, we've utilized 38 million gallons of that.
Okay.
Okay, so we have
A
16
little over
million,
half.
16 million gallons a day in excess capacity if we didn't do anything.
Okay.
Right. So now 6 million gallons a day, you could probably do it because you have it excess, right? You have it left over if you really needed to do it.
Mhm.
But let's just say, well, yeah, Scott, but you're talking about if you pull that extra 16 million, it's going to really drain the lake, right? It's really important when you're talking about data centers to understand the difference in a million and a billion. Now, for guys like you and I that are hardworking guys, it's hard for us to understand the difference in a million and a billion, right? I'll never see $1 billion in my life, right? I don't know that I'm going to see a million. I mean, put everything together, right? But so think about this now. $1 million to me and you, that's a ton of money, or not even money. Let's just put it in numbers. A million is a lot, right? So now think about what 100 million would be. 100 times $1 million. Okay.
Good lottery day.
Okay. $100 million. All right. Now we got to multiply that by 10 again and get to $999 million. Right.
Right.
So now once we get there, we're going to get to 1 billion. Okay. So from a million to a billion is a lot. All right.
One person in a room versus 100 people in a room.
Okay.
Versus 1,000 people in a room.
Versus a million versus a billion. So let's keep this.
Yep.
All right. 6 million gallons a day. We're talking about pulling out of the lake if we needed that. How many gallons of water in the lake?
Great question.
815 billion gallons on a normal day.
So, what's the percentage on that thing?
I can't even do that math.
No.
815 billion gallons of water in the lake on a typical day. On a hot day in July, 400 million of that 815 billion gallons evaporates.
That's actually a pretty impressive amount of evaporation. Wow.
Goes into the sky, comes back in the form of rain. 400 million gallons on a hot day in the summer evaporates. I think we could spare 6 million if we had to have it for the largest economic development project in the history of the state of Georgia.
That's a point something, maybe 0.0 something percent.
Yeah. If we needed it. And the fact is, we're not going to need it because we're looking at closed loop system.
To be clear, the 6 million gallons, that's not an everyday thing. That's not locked in.
No, that was a worst case scenario that they would need every single day. And if you go to any production plant or any big industrial plant, I would be, I don't even want to guess, but I would dare to say that the Hyundai plant on I-16,
that thing's impressive.
Uses 2 million gallons of water, 3 million gallons of water a day. If I had to guess, just as big as it is, it's huge, right? And that plant was a $5 billion investment in Georgia. The data center project coming to Columbia County on the low side is $50 billion.
Oh, $50 billion.
On the low side.
A $50 billion investment.
Right. And what I just say, the largest single investment in the state of Georgia's history from a private investor, Hyundai,
was $5
billion.
So we're talking 10 times the investment.
10 times.
So we're going to see. So how's that 10 billion broken down? Let's go into that a little bit for me.
Yeah. So yeah, well,
That's exciting.
yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, that's the thing about it. You have a
That just feels like we're just really not. We're just. I've been taking that for granted personally.
yeah, yeah.
Just thinking about the scale of that.
So yeah,
Whoa,
right. Because
whoa.
until you put it into perspective, I mean, that's really, and and that's the point that I really want to make.
Hmm.
We are in a representative democracy. We elect our leaders to represent us, and then they employ people that are supposed to be smart enough to do the job
Hmm.
for government, especially local government,
Hmm.
right? We have to trust our leaders because they have more information than we do. You know, when the president decides he wants to bomb a foreign country, you and I may sit back and say that was a dumb idea. But fact of the matter is, he's probably got something on his desk that would tell him that it was a really good idea.
He's got a whole cabinet, very informed.
Right. They're telling him, right? But as Monday morning quarterbacks, we're sitting back saying, yeah, I don't think it's a great idea.
Trust doesn't sell headlines though.
Exactly. Right. So the same thing happens here is, we have a representative democracy, and we've elected leaders to represent us. And as long as they're representing us right, we keep them. If they don't, we replace them. And
Hmm.
that's the way our government works. So we have all this information, and people, well, why are you not sharing this information? Well, first of all, I've shared it as much as I could.
Hmm.
There are things that I just can't say yet. We're still very early in a process, but we're in a world today where information is consumed in seconds, not in days, not in
Hmm.
months, not in
Hmm.
years anymore. Right?
Hmm.
Everybody has everything at their fingertips right now. So this was an entire process, and when we started looking at this, we saw, wow, this huge investment here, this multi-billion-dollar investment. And the way that comes to us is these data centers, when they come in, they buy the land, they pay a premium for it,
Hmm.
they build the building, they pay for all the infrastructure they need to pay for. So if we need to expand the water plant, I said a minute ago that, we they're not going to need that water, but let's just say somebody came one day and they did need that kind of water.
Hmm.
They would pay for the lines to be extended.
Right.
Right? We even threw out a number very early on when we were talking about if they needed that water, what would that look like? We said, well, it might cost us $80 million to
Run that water to you.
run the water to you and increase the size of the plant. And
Hmm.
we're not paying it. And our
Hmm.
citizens aren't paying it. You know what they said? Oh, no problem. No, if we need the water, we'll pay for it. And oh, by the way, when we run that water line from the plant all the way here, anybody else who wants to tap onto it can. It's not going to be our water line. It's going to be a municipal, county water line,
Right.
right? So anybody can get water now. So
It's a
now
big benefit. It's money we're not having to spend.
I'm not having to spend. I get to upgrade my entire system on somebody else's dime.
For a good comparison, real quick, the Amazon plant,
Yep.
big deal. What kind of investment was that on the county?
I'm gonna have to go back and look at that, but I don't even think that it got to 1 billion.
1 billion.
I don't think it got to a billion.
Right.
I think it was less than that. I think it was in the 600-700 million.
So just a prime example of how massive of a deal this is.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, right?
It's a
So
huge deal. The
50,
biggest deal ever.
50, yeah, yeah. 50 billion on the low side. It could be up in the 150 billion-dollar range when it's all said and done.
Is this just structure and technology costs, or is this like land, or is this like infrastructure?
No,
What
it's
is it?
basically building the building, man. I mean, these servers are very expensive. They have to come in and they have to build these buildings, and they're very secure, and they have to be, have certain levels of security and
Hmm.
uh, uh, safety and those sort of things. And the servers that go in them are very expensive,
Okay.
and they have to change those out every 3 or 4 years.
Hmm.
And guess what happens every time they change it out?
We need high level jobs doing for that.
And we tax them on what the new ones they put in.
Put in.
Every time you take out, oh, we'll put in a new one.
Yep.
They want your depreciation.
There's a tax.
Here we go. We're going to tax the new ones now.
Okay.
So
So the big picture, you mentioned earlier, we have a goal here of a no property tax
Yep.
county.
Yep.
This plays a big part in it.
Yep. So
What else is this a lock, or what else? What other doors does this data center open up for the county?
So data centers have proven themselves to be, contrary to kind of what you read, they've proven themselves to be good neighbors in that they really give back to the community. They pick nonprofits and just turn them into just really these amazing organizations, because they have so much money. They're generating so much money. They invest in the local school system. If you go to Loudoun County, Virginia, you hear that a lot. Loudoun County, Virginia is kind of the data center capital of the world.
Okay.
They had a lot of them. A guy by the name of Buddy Reiser, who I had the honor to be able to meet, was their economic development guy. He was the guy that first brought the first data center to Loudoun County 20 something years ago, and now they're just overflowing with them. and Tim Hemstreet is the county manager there in Loudoun County, Virginia, and he and I have developed a relationship
You
because
spent some time really looking into
I
this.
want to learn. Yeah, right. Well, it goes back to what I said before, right? I mean, you pay us to make sure that we have these answers. So we're going to, even though I'm not maybe sharing every answer, I'm going and getting them
You're
because
well informed
my board needs to know, right?
from the
So
best.
Loudoun County, Virginia, man, you go to any high school in Loudoun County, Virginia, they have the best stadium and they have indoor swimming pools and they have all these other things. And the taxpayers didn't pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
The data centers paid for that. Um, and you talk about the jobs, it doesn't generate a tremendous amount of jobs, but let's just say that it's 12 to 14, jobs. Let's just say in phase one they do 5 or 6 buildings, and I don't know exactly what the site plan looks like, but let's just say hypothetically, we're going to have 60, 70 jobs out there. That's not a lot, but they're all 150,000 plus year jobs
Mm-hmm.
that are going to employ people. And what about the people that are going to be building the data centers? We have to have construction workers and they all have to eat somewhere. So now they're going to eat at the mom and pop restaurants in Columbia County, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to stop at Academy Sports because they need a jacket. And they're going to stop at Manor Building Supply because they need to pick up an additional hammer. Or
Mm-hmm.
what? I mean, I could go on and on and on. They're going to buy gas here. You have all this influx of people coming in to build this massive facility, millions of square feet under roof
Mm-hmm.
in this massive facility. And that's where that investment comes from. It's just a tremendous amount of money that's being pumped into our community.
Wow, that's going to be wow.
It's
Just
it's, it's huge. It's huge. And let me tell you how.
seems like a no brainer for me.
Well, yeah. Let me say this in defense of the people that live out there. Okay, I think this is important. There's a whole lot of not in my backyard. And I live in Appling. I like the peace and quiet of where I live. I don't have street lights in my neighborhood. So I can go out at night on a clear night and I can see every star in the sky,
Mhm.
right? And I can hear the animals and it's just I enjoy that,
Mhm.
right? So I wouldn't want to have any pollution. I wouldn't want to have light pollution, noise, and all the things that would bother me either. So to the residents that live out there, we are taking great strides to make sure that they are affected as little as possible.
Okay.
Now they do live adjacent to an industrial property anyways. Amazon's already there, right?
Mhm.
Now the county or the development authority has bought a bigger piece, so it's kind of coming to that area. So in defense of those people, we have to we have to be very careful. Instead of just saying it's a no-brainer, um, we had to do some things. So one of the
Okay.
things we did was we said we're gonna make a new data center zoning ordinance in Columbia County to say that you have to have a 500-foot undisturbed buffer between uh, between the property line and the first building. So
Mhm.
500 feet. Well, that's a football field and a half,
Yes, it is.
right? So that's a pretty good buffer of trees that are
Mhm.
going to be there, right?
You won't be able to see through that many trees.
You won't be able to see through that many trees. So then we said, well, sounds a big deal, right? Because I don't want to hear those things humming and I live in the country, right? So we capped it at 70 decibels.
Okay.
Now, you and I are speaking at about 70 decibels
Okay.
right now, right? So maybe a little less, but right at around 70 decibels. So if you and I were having this conversation at 70 decibels and somebody was 500 feet away through a grove of trees, would they hear us talking?
I would say no.
Probably not. Now,
Mhm.
they may hear something and that continual hum may be a problem, but my point is we capped it at 70 decibels. Data centers can't produce any more than 70 decibels at their property line.
Okay.
So that's great,
Is that going to force the data center to have to make some changes on
Yeah,
their end?
I think they are. I think they're going to have to
They
put
can do
their
it.
cooling systems internally. I think they're going to have to face them away from our residents, and
Mhm.
they're going to have to direct all their light straight down instead of having this light pollution, mess up the appling
These are
sky.
ideas coming down from Virginia, I'm assuming.
We've talked about all these things,
Mhm.
all the lessons learned. And we said, you know what, we're going to write all this stuff in this data center ordinance. And the Planning Commission just approved it, and the Board of Commissioners are about to approve this.
Mhm.
And, it's just the right thing to do to protect those people because I feel like it's a no brainer, but you know what? It's not in my backyard. So now I need to make sure that I put myself in their shoes,
Right.
right? To make sure that we give them the best level of comfort possible. And the reality is we're going to be able to do that where really it's not going to be a bad neighbor.
Mhm.
Now, the people there still may not like it. There are going to be some people that just don't want it. There are going to be people that don't trust government that say you're lying to us and you're never going to have that decibel level. And what happens if they go over it and you're not going to take them to court and you're not going to do this? Columbia County has a proven track record of doing the right thing.
Mhm.
This conspiracy stuff, people coming out of the woodwork, saying we're not going to do something, is not based on any. It's not based on anything that's happened. There's no historical data that backs up that Columbia County is not going to do what we said we were going to do. Certainly not in the time that I've been the county manager,
Mhm.
because we're very intentional about what we do, and we say what we're going to do and we do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we do it well in a lot of respects. So there's really nothing there, but there's I understand there's a lot of distrust for government, and there may be times where I distrust government too, but not the one closest to me,
Right.
because I know all those people, and
Right.
and I trust those people, um, and Columbia County again just has a great track record, so I think they're headed in the right direction, but some people disagree with that.
That's okay. No, everyone needs to be appreciative of this big project. This is really eye opening. I mean, really, that is just a massive, massive, massive project.
A massive project that generates hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue when it's all said and done,
Mhm.
that you're essentially will not be able to see and hear.
What's the footprint like acreage?
Well, it's huge now. I mean, so the first project's looking at over 2,000 acres, which will
Okay.
make it one of the largest single acreage data centers in the country.
Okay.
Maybe the largest.
Okay.
So that scares people.
Hmm.
If we have to have one, do we have to have the biggest one? Well,
Right.
I don't know that we intended for that to happen. I just think that Columbia County was well poised to have this economic development. And I got to give a shout out to Shani Eldridge. I mean, Shani is our economic development director, and she is new in that position. I say new; she's been here maybe a couple of years, a year and a half. But it's just done an outstanding job. And
Hmm.
this isn't the only thing she's working on, which is what also amazes me. I had a call with her yesterday about two other projects that are exciting projects that are coming to Columbia County
Hmm.
that I can't say anything about. I mean, that's always the big.
We need to get her on the show after this in a couple months. Talk
Yeah,
more
yeah,
about
yeah.
that.
She'll be able to make some really cool announcements about some things people are going to be excited about coming to Columbia County. Um, but you know, we are working together and hard to try to bring this thing to fruition, just because of it really boils down to the amount of money it generates and being able to
Hmm.
do away with property taxes.
That's an exciting goal. Something I'd love to be part of.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
oh yeah.
think about this from a mortgage perspective, right?
Hmm.
So if you have a buyer that wants to buy a $300,000 house, and I've heard a lot about affordable housing,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
We all have, right?
Hmm.
And this goes back to what I was saying before about, if we do something over here, what are the unintended or intended consequences over here?
Hmm.
Okay. Let's say we eliminate property taxes. You have a buyer that qualified for a $300,000 house. That's all they could qualify for,
Hmm.
right? If you go to them and you say, "Hey, you're going to be in Columbia County, so your your insurance is going to be lower
Hmm.
because you're going to be an ISO
Oh yeah.
one, right? So instead of escrowing this much for insurance, you're going to escrow this much for insurance, okay? And you don't have any property taxes if it's your homesteaded property, you don't have any property taxes.
Hmm.
So now, instead of that $400 a month or $500 a month you were escrowing for property taxes, you can now apply that to your payment.
Hmm.
Now you can afford a $400,000 home because you're not paying the government their portion.
Right.
Dude, this is
It's gonna be a good day to be
life
one of the first
changing.
people in that door.
Right. It's life change, generational changing, right?
Hmm.
And for us to be able to still provide a world class level of service, but give our local homeowners the tax break that they very much deserve.
Hmm.
That's the way it ought to be done. I mean, to me, it's a no brainer to do that. Does it come with consequences? Yes. Am I going to sell out the county that I've grown up in and love? Absolutely not.
No, you're coming in from a well informed position, and you're looking at that big picture.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about what we got coming up soon. Let's just spotlight a couple things. We got a Christmas parade coming up here.
We do. We're blessed in Columbia County to have a lot of things going on a lot of times,
Hmm.
right? So, it wasn't always the case. I mean, we talked about when you kind of moved here and how long you've been around, but when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot to do in Columbia County. I'll just say that there wasn't
Right.
a lot to do in Columbia County. Now there's a ton to do.
Dirt roads.
Yeah, right.
Not too long ago.
Not too long ago. Yeah, our Merchants Association in Columbia County does a great job of doing the Christmas parade. That's going to be coming up. We have a lot of things going on at our Performing Arts Center. Christmas in Evanstown Center Park. We're getting the lights up right now. So our goal is to always have those fully functional by Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
We'll do a Christmas tree lighting. Evans on Ice is back
Back.
again. They
Hmm.
partner with us to have that, so it's just a great feel there. A lot of concerts, a lot of things that are happening indoors and outdoors. We did an outdoor series concert this year. Had a couple of different acts that came in.
Is that all at the park?
Yeah, so we had Craig Morgan recently. We had the Village People. I actually went to the Village People, and that was kind of cool
Mhm.
to see the Village People. I
Yeah.
think only one guy was original, but it was still fun, do the YMCA at the end. But yeah, we've had those concerts there as well. So we have a lot of that stuff kind of coming up. First of the year is exciting as we move into some of these other, forget data center for a minute, some other economic development uh, things that we're going to be able to unveil and talk about what we're going to be doing in our downtown and our
Mhm.
town center area is great. Our two cities, Harlem and Grovetown, are both doing great.
Mhm.
There's such charm in those towns. When you go to downtown Harlem and stroll around those little shops down there,
Mhm.
whatever's kind of interesting in and
Gotta
of
give a shout
itself.
out
And
to Renee over at the Acorn. Love her
yeah,
place.
yeah, right, absolutely, yeah. Good friend of mine. We went to high school together. So I've known her a long time, and her sister and her family.
Whole family.
Whole family, great. Yeah, so just lots of things going on like that. I think Columbia County is poised for a very successful 2026.
Real quick, I just got to hear this answer. Gunner Stockton, Heisman talk. I think after last week versus A&M, we were going to see some things. We're going to see some things this weekend. That guy's getting really good.
Georgia's been blessed with good quarterbacks. Nobody thought Stetson Bennett would get the job done, and boy, did he get the job done for us. And Gunnar Stockton's doing a great job. For him to come up and step up and do what he needed to do. Yeah, I think the issue that we're having now is, as much of a Georgia fan as I am, I'm also a realist. Um, any given Saturday, man. It's any given Saturday now. I'm black and red, and I'm going to support my team, and I'd love to see Gunner win the Heisman. But there's so much talent out there in the league.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much talent, and when I'm watching a team that I really don't care for, like I would never wear those colors. They're not in my color wheel at all,
Mm-hmm.
just because I really dislike that team that much.
Bright orange.
Something like bright orange is kind of what I was thinking about, right? I don't wear crimson or anything like that, but yeah, those colors just don't look good on me. But the reality is, man, they got some really good players. We got a lot of talent in the league, and that you're really going to have to be a standout to. I'm not saying Gunner can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be a standout to win the Heisman. And the days of having national champions go back to back to back, or that's going to be an anomaly. I mean, look how many
No one's
good
safe.
teams out there right now.
And no one's safe.
No one on any given Saturday.
Indiana and Vanderbilt are very good football teams.
Yes.
What a
Who
weird
would have
thing.
thought? Who would have? Which I'm
Indiana-
glad for them.
I didn't realize how historically bad Indiana football was.
I didn't know they had a football team. I thought they were a basketball school.
What's next? Like Minnesota is going to be a good football team. Oh my god!
Yes, I know, right?
The
And
Gold
Vanderbilt, what amazing things they've done at that school, man! What a great school that is, and really make the SEC shine. I mean, look at the SEC, man. You look around the SEC: Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M,
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt. I mean, it's just crazy at how the SEC. Oklahoma. I mean, I can go to a whole list. I mean, I'm going to leave somebody out.
We got Oklahoma next year. I sat there. I forgot Oklahoma was in the SEC.
Yeah,
It's gotten so big and just so much change.
yeah.
I go, wait a second. Oklahoma's in the SEC.
Yeah, we play them next year.
We do.
We
excited.
do. Georgia plays Oklahoma next year. Yeah.
I love it. All right, so we get everybody out in this last question. Thank you for your time. I'm
Absolutely
really excited about this. I was really excited about getting this set up. We have to give Jana Beth a little bit of credit.
She works hard on my schedule and trying to get things done. So yeah, I appreciate you working with
I
her.
sat there. I said, Scott and I scheduled a date, and then both of us just completely just missed it.
We did. We
So,
did.
Thank you, Jana.
Glad we're
Beth,
here now
for putting that together.
Absolutely.
Oh man. But Columbia County, if you had to pick one thing you were just really, really pumped about going into 2026.
I'm going to unveil it here, and I don't know. Yeah, you like that, right? You're going to unveil it here.
Oh, okay, yes.
We have been working
This.
very, very hard on transparency in Columbia County. We want to be a transparent government. We've talked about our YouTube channel, and hopefully we've got that in the show notes where people will be able to see that.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about how to communicate with people, and that YouTube channel is going to be important going forward. We're moving into our new building, coming up here pretty soon. And one of the things that I talked to the board of commissioners about, and one of the things that I talked to Cassie Harris, our PR director, about, was better ways to communicate. So beginning in January, the Columbia County manager will have a podcast.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
I'm going to be doing this same exact platform. I'm going to be having guests on. I'd love to have you on my show going forward. And we're going to talk about all things Columbia County, and we're going to put that out there in a format that people can really get and understand,
Okay.
and we're going to be telling the truth, and we're going to be all the things that maybe the things that I want to say that I can't say all the time. Maybe I can hint at them, but when I can say something, I'm going to go to the podcast first, and that's where we're going to release it. So
Okay.
listen to the podcast. You want to know what's really going on in Columbia County? You want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth? Listen to the county manager's podcast. Going to be beginning in January. We've got a studio set up in the new building.
Okay.
Super, super, super
That's gonna
excited
be
about
fun.
that.
That's gonna be a
So,
lot of fun.
and really, what I'm more excited about more than the podcast is really increasing that transparency and
Mhm.
gaining the trust back of our citizens. That's very important to me. And I hate to see anybody think
Mhm.
that Columbia County is not being transparent or we're not doing the right thing. So we're going to do everything we can do to combat that. Maybe even have some of my, I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to go down that road, but I maybe even extend an invitation to a couple of my Facebook foes to come be on the podcast. That might be good.
I'd love to moderate that one.
Yeah,
That'd
all
be
right.
good.
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
a good
yeah, yeah.
moderator.
Well, yeah, I may have to have moderators, security, and National Guard, and yeah, other things. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the citizens really seeing the inner workings in Columbia County.
Is that gonna be a like a once a month thing or how? What's the frequency
Yeah,
of that?
well, so I don't know how your podcast. I'm new to podcasts. They're
Mhm.
kind of easing me into this, but
Mhm.
um, my hope is to do them as much as we need them. I don't. I'm going to start out trying to drop a weekly.
Weekly. Okay.
uh,
It's a lot.
I know.
It's a
I know.
lot.
We're gonna see. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I'm gonna try to do it weekly. Even if I tape several of them and get ahead, that may
Mhm.
help me with my schedule. So
That's
we'll see.
the guests and the topics
Yeah,
take a day, 4 hours in the morning of once a month and just book out your
yeah.
entire
That's
month.
that's kind of what we're thinking. But
Mhm.
again, I'm learning. I may call you for some pointers and
I'm happy to be here for it.
absolutely. But yeah, super excited about that. You heard it here first. I don't think we've announced that anywhere else.
Oh,
So
okay.
there you go.
We'll clip that. We'll clip that and we'll tag everybody and do all the things.
Yeah,
Good. I appreciate it, man. This is really exciting. Thank you for your time once again.
absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for just everything you've done and this exciting day to be a Columbia County resident
I think so.
here and beyond.
Yep. Sounds good.